And the 1% doesn't get it yet.
And the 1% doesn't get it yet.
So keep telling them the truth.
So keep telling them the truth.
They're a little slow.
They're a little slow.
But they'll get it.
But they'll get it.
Eventually.
Eventually.
So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the 1%.
So I wanted to tell you a little about the 1%.
I've been studying the 1%.
I've been studying the 1%.
For a while. It's quite a story.
It's quite a story.
You know, there was a long time in this country when the 1% were under control.
There was a long time when the 1% was under control.
They were still well-to-do, but they didn't own everything and they didn't run everything.
They were still well-to-do, but they didn't own everything. They didn't control everything.
And this country started to slip into their hands and out of our hands around 1980.
Well before. This country started to slip into their hands and out of our hands.
So here are the basic facts, which I'm sure you know very well.
So here are the basic facts, which I'm sure you all know.
In 1980, the top 1% took home 9% of the household income.
In 1980,
The top 1% took home 9%
of the household income.
You're much better than my students. Okay. The top 1% took home 9% of the income. Now, the top 1% takes home 23% of the income.
Takes home 23% of the income.
The top 1% of wealth holders
The top 1% of wealth holders
has more wealth
than
than the bottom 90% of this country.
the bottom 90% of this country.
The top, now listen carefully,
Now listen carefully.
the top 0.01%,
The top 0.01%,
that's 12,000 households.
that's 12,000 households.
They take home 6% of the household income.
They take home 6% of the household income.
That's more than the poorest 20 million people in this country.
That's more than the poorest
20 million people in this country.
The last time America had this inequality
The last time America had this inequality
was in 1929.
was in 1929.
And you know what happened then?
And we know what happened then.
It led to disaster.
It led to disaster.
So you have to head off disaster. So you have to head off. We have to head off.
So we have to head off disaster.
How did we get to this miserable situation?
How did we get to this miserable situation?
It started in the 1970s.
It started in the 1970s
When globalization began.
when globalization began.
That was good for many poor countries.
That was good for many poor countries.
It was good if you were rich in the United States.
It was good if you were rich in the United States.
But if you were an average worker,
But if you were an average worker,
you started to find that your income was squeezed.
you started to find that your income was squeezed.
All of a sudden you were facing competition
All of a sudden you were facing competition
from halfway around the world.
from halfway around the world.
Now, those were poor countries halfway around the world.
Now those were poor countries halfway around the world.
And they started to develop, which was all to the good in my view.
And they started to develop, which was all to the good in my view.
But this country left the people behind that were hurting.
This country left the people behind that were hurting.
If you had a high school education and you were working in a factory here, your job was going to start to move out of the country overseas.
If you had a high school diploma I want to stop. Short declarative sentences.
If you had a high school education
and you were working in a factory,
And you were working in a factory,
you could say goodbye to your job.
you could say goodbye to your job.
It was going somewhere else.
It was going somewhere else.
If you wanted to keep your job,
If you wanted to keep your job,
you were going to bust your union,
you're going to muster your union,
or cut your wages,
or cut your wages,
or cut your benefits.
or cut your benefits.
Now, a civilized country would have done something about this.
A civilized country would have done something about this.
We would have helped people to get more skills, more training, more education.
We would have helped people to get more skills, more training, more education.
We would have helped our factories to be more productive.
We would have helped our factories to be more productive.
That's why we have a government after all.
That's why we have a government after all.
It's supposed to help.
In 1981, a very strange thing happened.
A man was elected. Came the first day of office. And he said, government is not the solution, it's the problem.
Government is not the solution, it's the problem.
I'm going to say it again. He said, government is the solution, not the problem.
No, that's not what he said. Government is the problem, not the solution.
What did slip?
It's the problem.
Now, a man that believes that should not be our president of the United States.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
He should have stayed on TV and left us alone.
He should have stayed on TV and left us alone.
We need presidents who believe that government is the solution for all of us.
We need government who believe that government is the solution for all of us.
But what Ronald Reagan did was cut the taxes at the top.
What Ronald Reagan did was cut the taxes at the top
Cut the benefits below.
and cut the benefits below
And put our country on the path of inequality.
and put our country on the path of inequality.
Now here's the sad news, ladies and gentlemen.
Here's the sad news, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not news to you because you figured it out before everybody else.
It's not news to you because you figured it out before everybody else.
It wasn't just Ronald Reagan.
It wasn't just Ronald Reagan.
It wasn't just the Republicans.
It wasn't just the Republicans.
Both the Republicans and the Democratic Party.
It was both the Republicans and the Democratic Party.
They figured if they cut taxes for the rich,
They figured if they cut taxes for the rich
would give them campaign contributions.
rich would give them campaign contributions.
And they could all live happily ever after.
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 Not us.
Not us.
They are the 1%.
They are the 1%.
We're the 99%.
We are the 99%.
And this has gone on for 30 years now.
And this has gone on for 30 years now.
Corporate lobbies have owned our government.
Corporate lobbies have owned our government.
Even Barack Obama.
Even Barack Obama,
I supported and I voted for.
who I supported and I voted for,
Who I want to succeed.
who I want to succeed,
Has dinner with rich people all the time.
has dinner with rich people all the time.
But he's not having dinner with the 99%.
But he's not having dinner with the 99%.
If you have to pay $35,800 a plate, the 99% are going to go hungry.
You have to pay $35,000 a plate.